know the title of this video probably seems a little bit extreme, and you're probably thinking or even commenting that I am simply in the honeymoon phase of this international move that I've made. And that simply couldn't be further from the truth. As a matter of fact, I am pretty much fully established here in the Netherlands. I have my residence permit. I've secured my DAFT visa, so I'm gonna be here until March 2026. I have my own bike. I have my Dutch bank accounts open with money in them, my debit cards, and I've even applied for health insurance. And on that note, that is the first reason why I will never, ever move back to the United States of America. Health insurance. If you didn't catch it earlier, I said that I am currently on the DAFT visa. And if you don't know what the DAFT visa is, the DAFT visa is essentially a visa specifically for not just Americans, but American entrepreneurs. So in other words, I am an entrepreneur. I don't work at a regular 9-to-5 job. I am a business owner, freelancer, whatever you want to call it. This right here, talking to this camera, is how I make the bulk of my income. Bearing that in mind, if I were to live in the United States of America, I would not have access to all of these health insurance plans that a lot of these companies provide to their employees, which means that I would have to come out of pocket to pay the full amount. Now, I don't have an exact concrete number for that, but from what I've heard, that could be anywhere from $400 a month to $2,000 a month plus for an entrepreneur to have health insurance. And for me personally, that just doesn't sit well with me, especially since the health insurance that I've chosen to get here in the Netherlands is 122 euros and 95 cents per month. 122 euros and 95 cents per month. Now, granted, I got pretty much the cheapest one you can possibly get, but the point is, as an entrepreneur, I will not have that option in the United States of America. Simply put, I just won't have that option. And the way that I got around this before was simply by kind of mooching off of my parents' health insurance. If you don't know, in the US, you're allowed to stay on your parents' health insurance plan until you're 26. But like I said earlier, my visa expires March 2026, which is coincidentally right around the time that I turned 26. Okay, March 2026. So that right there, just that alone, pretty much guarantees that I will never move back to the US. I hope you can hear me with all of these cars passing by because I'm posting this video. But just the health insurance alone, I mean, for an entrepreneur, it's pretty much nonsensical. Now, as far as the quality of the healthcare, I can't really speak on that because I don't have much experience with the US or the Netherlands as far as healthcare goes. I haven't been to a regular doctor's appointment since I was 14 and I'm 24 years old. So I don't know, I can't speak on that. What I can say is that I'm willing to bet my future that the health insurance in the US is not 4 times or even 20 times better than what I'd receive here in the Netherlands. Plain and simple. Now, the next reason why I will never move back to the United States of America is politics. Now listen, before you comment under my video talking about liberal this, conservative that, I want you to know that personally, I'm impartial. I'm completely impartial, unbiased. You could say that I'm apolitical, if you will. At the time that I'm filming this, there's an election coming up, and truthfully, I don't care who wins, because it has nothing to do with me. As a matter of fact, let me get off of the street so that you can hear me better. But yeah, I don't have any sort of preference as to who wins this presidential campaign, because I'm not going to be there. Okay, I do not care. Even if I was there, I probably wouldn't vote. Because what I've realized, and I don't want to make this video too political, but what I've realized is that politics are just a divisive mechanism. Okay, divide and conquer, the most classic, well-known strategy for controlling people that there is, and yet people still fall for it. That's all I'm going to say on that. The politics are out of control, they're extremely divisive, And here in the Netherlands, I can't speak on other countries because I don't really know much about the politics of other countries. But here in the Netherlands, there aren't just two candidates for the prime minister position, which would be the equivalent of the president of the US. In the US, if you didn't know, there are only two candidates and you have to choose. There's one from the Democrat side, one from the Republican side. And like I said, I don't care who wins. I'm neither Democrat nor Republican. I personally am not going to vote. I'm not going to participate in that. I'm not going to let them get me caught up in all of this tomfoolery, for lack of a better term. Now, on the topic of politics, the next reason why I will never move back to the US is gun control. Now listen, okay, again, I'm not going to relay my opinion because I don't really have an opinion on this matter. I can see how both sides have credible arguments, credible claims as to why gun control should be one way or another. What I will do is I will assess the facts. Okay, and here are the facts. Here in the Netherlands, there are not mass shootings. It just doesn't happen here. Now, that's not to say that it doesn't happen in any country, but for most of the Western developed world, the US is far and away the country with the most mass shootings. Now, why is that? I don't know. You could say it's a gun problem, you could say it's a mental health problem. Doesn't really matter to me. All I know is that it happens, and I'm gonna share a quick little story. I'm from the DFW area, the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area, and before I left Texas back in 2022, at the end of 2022, to go to LA for a few months, I lived in this city called Allen, Texas. Now, Allen, Texas is one of the safest cities that you could possibly live in. I mean, it is truly one of the safest cities you could be in. I'm talking about people walk their dogs at 2 a.m. Okay, it's that kind of city. It's the type of city that people want to raise their children in and send them to the public schools, etc. A city where they have literally a $60 million stadium for the high school football team. Okay? For the high school football team, a $60 million stadium. Now, I'm saying this to say that this is the last place that you would expect anything like that to happen, and yet that is exactly what happened a little over a year ago. If you didn't know, May of 2023, there was a mass shooting at this mall called the Allen Outlets Mall, which is a mall that I lived probably 5 minutes away from. Okay, a 5-minute drive. Not only that, I went there quite often. My parents went there at least once or twice a month. And just to see it happen so close in a place like that, where you would just never expect any sort of violent encounters like that to happen, I mean, it lets you know that you're really not safe anywhere. You're really not safe anywhere in the US. If you're not safe in Allen, you're not safe anywhere. And I didn't realize how much tension I was constantly carrying based on the threat of a mass shooting or something similar to that until I got here and I realized that it's literally not a threat. It just doesn't happen here. Now, that's not to say that nothing bad happens in the Netherlands. There is crime. There's crime everywhere in the world. You can't get away from that. But statistically speaking, you are much less likely to get caught in a mass shooting here in the Netherlands than you are in the United States. Now, a big part of why violence is so much more prevalent in the US is because of economic inequality, which is the next reason why I will never move back to the US. The US has economic inequality to an extent that I don't think any other truly developed nation experiences. Now, I'm not going to get into the reasons why this is because truthfully, I don't know. Okay, I don't know. I'm 24. I don't have all the answers. I'm not running for president. Like I said, I'm not even voting because I'm not going to be there. But if you've been to the US and if you've been to a big city in particular, like Los Angeles, you know that the economic inequality is unfathomable. Compared to what you see out here in the Netherlands, it is completely unfathomable. And I bring up LA as an example because, like I said, I lived there, or I wouldn't say I lived there, I stayed there for a little under 3 months, and I got a chance to see how you could have a sidewalk like this, for example, be lined up with tents. Okay, lined up with tents. Not because people were camping, no, because people had nowhere else to live. And that's if you were lucky. There were people who were sleeping on the ground, at the beach, etc. Okay, I have seen some people who are probably never going to recover from the situation that they're in. And I don't say that to be pessimistic, I say that as an objective observation. And what makes it even more striking is the fact that right around the corner from these sidewalks lined with tents are mansions in the hills. Mansions, penthouses, luxurious apartments. People driving Rolls-Royce Cullinans and Ferraris, and having people standing at the stoplight with the cardboard saying, I need help feeding my kids. And you don't know if they're actually in a position where they need to feed their children or if they're just strung out on drugs. You don't know. But the point is, I don't see that here. I just don't see it. That's not to say that nobody struggles with money here. Okay, that is definitely not true. There are people struggling with money everywhere in the world. And as a matter of fact, I believe the US is the wealthiest nation, but there are large portions of the US where you just would never know. You would never know. Because truthfully, the quality of life for most people is better here. It just is. For most people. If you're in the top 1%, if you have one of those types of jobs, those high-end corporate jobs where you have those health insurance benefits and you're getting paid $500,000 a year, then sure, you probably would have a better life in the US. But for the majority of people, it's just not the case. The economic inequality is absolutely mind-blowing. And if you haven't left the US to see how other parts of the world, especially the developed world, are living, then you just don't realize how crazy it actually is. Now, the next reason why I will never move back to the US is the urban planning. The urban planning. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into this as far as the zoning laws and everything that entails because I'm not an urban planner and I don't really know enough about it to comment on it. But what I can do, once again, is I can simply share my objective observations. I'm walking down this sidewalk, which sort of doubles as a bike path. You can see somebody riding their bike. And these are everywhere. These are absolutely everywhere. Here in the Netherlands, in most places, okay, I do not live in a big city by any means. As a matter of fact, I won't say the city that I live in, but I do live in Noord-Brabant, which is kind of like the American equivalent of Kansas or something. Okay, we're talking maybe the Midwest, not a place where there are many big cities. And you do not need a car here. And I can't really fully articulate, I have to stop walking so I can fully get this point across to you. I can't articulate how big of a difference that actually makes in day-to-day life, not needing a car. Now, you might be thinking, well, Jordan, I like driving. Guess what? I like driving too. The key is you don't have to drive. You can still choose to drive because there are, as a matter of fact, let me show you, there are cars. Okay, you can see there are cars, there are roads. People drive, people can drive. And as a matter of fact, the roads and the general infrastructure are better. They are better here than they are anywhere that I've seen in the US. But if you're one of those people who doesn't like to drive, if you'd prefer to not get caught in traffic on the 405 in LA, then you can get around purely by bike and public transportation. Some people have these scooters. You saw one earlier in the video. They're really, really loud for absolutely no reason, but they're there. Again, you have the bikes, you can walk. I see people rollerblading. You can ride a longboard, a skateboard. All of this is absolutely extraordinary as somebody who's not just from the US, but from Texas, the DFW area, which is probably the car capital of the country, where you literally cannot function as an adult if you don't have access to a car. You just can't function. There aren't any buses to take you from the suburbs to the city. It just doesn't exist. You have the DART rail. It's not really that extensive. It doesn't really take you where you need to go. And truthfully, like I said, as an adult, as a fully grown adult, it's going to be very, very exceedingly difficult to function without a car, which can make it difficult to get a job if you choose to work at a job or put yourself in positions to earn money. Now, of course, you can make money online and then you don't need a car, but hey, not everyone wants to do that. So the point is, I believe that the way that these cities are structured in the US, the inaccessibility to opportunities without having a literal $10, $20, $30,000 machine can put you in a position where you simply can't get out of your financial turmoil. And to me, listen, I'm all for accountability. I'm all for making better choices. Again, we all have the opportunity to earn money online. I'm living proof of that. But it's just not really fair. It's really just not fair, if I'm being honest. And that's just my personal take on it. You might disagree, but if you visit the Netherlands, you will see for yourself that the urban planning is absolutely extraordinary. However much the civil engineers, the urban planners, however much those people are making here, they need to be making about double or triple that. They should be making no less than $300,000 a year, because the quality and the thoughtfulness of the infrastructure here is unlike anything that I've personally ever seen. But the Netherlands isn't the only place like this, by the way. I've also been to Spain, I've been to Switzerland. If you go to some of my older videos, you can see where I visited those places, and they shared a lot of the same qualities. I don't know what this smell is. I'm smelling something that's assaulting my nostrils right now. It's diabolical. I don't even know where I am right now. Don't know how to get back, but that's besides the point. The urban planning makes a big difference as far as the accessibility to opportunities and the general quality of life. Okay, you can see right here, this street, you have these bike lanes. These aren't really my favorite types of bike lanes because, I don't know, they make me a little bit nervous, but it's still better than what we have in the US. Okay, at least there's something. But if you want to know more about the urban planning in the US versus the Netherlands or other countries, you can visit Not Just Bikes or some of these other YouTube channels to go more in depth on that. I don't want to harp too much on that topic because the next thing that is keeping me, hold on, I'm not gonna lie. See, sometimes I see things here that just don't make sense. Having access to public transportation in a city where they literally drive tractors on the street is, like I said, mind-blowing. That said, the next reason why I will never move back to the US is the isolation from other countries. The isolation from other countries. I mentioned earlier that I had visited Spain and Switzerland. Obviously, I've been in the Netherlands for a little over 6 months now, and I've also been to Belgium for a day. And I've documented all of this, by the way. I've documented all of this on my channel. And all of these places that I've mentioned are within a 3-hour flight. Within 3-hour flying distance, I can be in multiple different countries. As a matter of fact, Belgium, I think we rode on the train for less than 2 hours. And then Zurich, Switzerland, where I visited, that's around an 8-hour drive. I mean, these places are so close and accessible, and that also means that travel is cheaper. So not only is it closer, but it's also cheaper, which means that pretty much everyone that I've come across, everyone that I've encountered from the Netherlands has been to other countries. Most of my friends have never left the US. There are people from the US, people from Texas, who have never even left Texas. That's just not something that you see here. You just don't see that because, for one, travel is normalized. Two, people probably use the money that they're saving from not having a car or not needing two cars to travel instead. And three, again, it's just more accessible. People have access to all of these different places, and that's something that I personally plan to exploit to the fullest possible extent. But first, I need to explore the Netherlands a little more thoroughly. And as I do that, I'm going to document all of these explorations, all of these excursions, so that you can explore it with me.